Live from the KC Property Guys and KC Pier Studio in beautiful Kansas City. Home to over 200 fountains and more barbecue restaurants per capita than anywhere in the nation. It's the Kansas City Real Estate Industry Leaders Show, a show about industry leaders from the local Kansas City metro market for Kansas City real estate related professionals and enthusiasts like you. And now, here's your hosts, Eric and Lucas Scheele.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Kansas City Real Estate Industry Leaders Podcast. My name is Lucas Scheele, and I'm here with my co-host, Eric Scheele. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. And then, luckily, we also have Mike Church with Pet Defense in here in the studio today. He's going to give us a little bit of the lowdown on his product. So, you want to take this off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we are happy to have Mike Church with Pet Defense in the studio with us today. And keep in mind, we are Kansas City real estate industry leaders. And so, well, what does Pet Defense have to do with Kansas City real estate industry leaders? Well, guess what? We talk about anything related to real estate, and home services, obviously, is a huge piece of what we do. And so we brought in the leader in hidden fence installation and training in Kansas City and the metro area with Mike Church and Pet Defense. So we're happy to have you in studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good. So we're gonna, for your education, we put you on the hot seat here for about 15-20 minutes, and so we're gonna run down some questions and have some people get to know you and what you do and how you're related to Pet Defense specifically, and then obviously working with real estate and home in the home services industry. But we look forward to kind of getting to know you and have you in studio and talking about some of the things that you do and how it relates to what we do. Sure. With real estate as KC Property Guys and KCPG Realty Group. And so you ready to get this kicked off?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we always start with everybody. We ask them, what's your story? So if how did it all get started, and what have you done up to this point? Have you been in pet defense and hidden fences, since the beginning of your career, or is this an evolution of things, or what's taking place?
Well, this is definitely an evolution. I don't think you go graduate from college with an accounting degree and say, okay, I'm going to sell dog fences and train dogs all day. So it's definitely evolved. I fell into it about 4 years ago. I had a good friend who I was looking for a career change, and he suggested that I contact the owner of Pet Defense, and I did that, and his name was Roger McCoy, and Roger's still with the company, and okay. Roger and I talked, and he had an incredible marketing following as far as he had never had a bad review. And I've worked in a lot of different companies with a lot of different industries, and everybody seems to mess up. I mean, everybody messes up once,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
And for him, in his industry, not to have any mistakes and have, all 5-star reviews on Google and have Angie's List that he's won at the last 7 or 8 years, for the Super Service Award for the top service company, everything fell into place. I'm like, well, this sounds like a great company to work for. I mean, they do everything right. You don't have to bring a lot of change in. And I had a lot of experience in sales, and I come from an accounting background, so I can do the business side as well. So I felt like I was able to learn the company and the industry and just kind of, take it all in and then evolve with it and add my experience and my marketing skills and sales skills and whatnot to it.
It's always nice to join a leader.
Yes.
In an industry, regardless of what industry you are in, because the opportunity to learn is expansive, and you're learning. When you have someone who is leading an industry, is doing something right.
Oh yeah, well, I came from the audio video industry, and I did that for over 15 years, and we're selling. It was a kind of a race to zero. You see TVs now for
Right.
$89, and we used to sell them for $1,000. And guess what? That margin goes away. And he had a product, and more importantly, he had a service and the ability to service his customers, and he did everything right. So it was an easy decision, and it was the top. By far the top company in the industry here locally, and it's survived for 25 years. He's been around since the mid-'90s. So there in every industry, there's companies that always come in and come out, and
Right.
and ease of entry into an industry, they're all different, but to survive that long and to still be on top is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's a survivor. You've taken under your wing 4 years ago,
Right.
right? And so where are you today with Pet Defense? Because it's been a 4-year run, right?
It's been a 4-year run. I'm part owner, and we have grown those last 4 years. A lot of our sales, over those years, we've got a lot. We've created a sales process, and we've implemented some techniques and some marketing ideas. He already had over 70 vets that endorsed him exclusively. So we've added to that. We've added to Google to where now we have over 140 5-star reviews. We don't have a 4-star review out there or anything less. So.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. As I say that,
Mm-hmm.
somebody's gonna,
Right
hey, we're gonna throw one out there
Yeah,
just to
right.
mess you up.
No.
Yeah,
We don't wish that on anybody.
yeah,
No, not at
but we've added on the sales, and our sales have grown each and every year for the last 4 years. But a lot of that, one of the things that I would like to expand on is with agents. We've worked with agents a little bit, and a lot of our sales come from people moving from a fenced-in backyard where they've had, 1 or 2 dogs to now they want to buy this property, but what are we going to do with their dogs? And a lot of people, their dogs are their children.
Yeah. Right.
And
I know with me it is.
yeah.
of course.
And so,
Absolutely.
we get a lot of phone calls, and there's a lot of nervousness and a lot of insecurity, and like, okay, is this going to work? And I tell people, we've been doing this for 25 years. We've only had one dog that we couldn't keep in, and it was a almost 200-pound German Shepherd that went from 80 acres to 5 acres, and it's a long story, but nonetheless, we did everything we could,
Yeah.
and
By the way, I'd be the same way. You can't contain me. You're not going to
80
drop
to
me.
5.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well-
You're not going to drop me.
Well, and it's funny, people, the perception is okay, we're going to come out, I'm going to shock your dog, and your dog's going to scream and do backflips and just hate me, and it's completely opposite. The training has evolved, and our program, that's one of the things we've developed is just the training aspect of it. And
Right.
we've evolved it from a go take your dog out and shock them at a high level to, oh my gosh, I'm never going over there again, to slowly raising that correction level and letting them understand that the yard's a fun, safe, happy place, and
Perfect.
and so they're gonna it's never what people perceive. It's I mean, every time I train, the dogs come up next to me afterwards, and they're rubbing their nose up against my hand and want to be pet, and just
And that's,
love the fact that
you've touched upon it quite a bit, actually. So and you've worked. Now you've also touched upon about what we do here in our house in KCPG, Kansas City Property Guys, is you're working a lot with realtors as well as vets as your channels, and of course we have realtors on staff with KCPG Realty Group, and we do a lot of listings. But I assume what you're working with on the real estate side is probably a lot of buyers entering a house.
correct.
Right. And it's like their honeymoon. If you're going to spend money, one of the things that you're probably going to spend money on is the kids in the house. And so, like you said, these pets are kids, and containing the kids, either through a fence, or even if it's not a fence, I assume a front yard is involved and a street's involved, and there's some fear of losing, your one of your kids, quote unquote kids, dogs, to a traffic path that they're not familiar with.
Correct.
And so obviously there's got to be some containment concern there. Now my question to that is what happens with because this is hidden fencing, right?
Yes.
But it's a buried line, right? It's not the radio control type stuff.
No, it is not a wireless system. We bury the wire. And there's quite a few reasons. The best reason is because it always works. And you can't have a mistake in this scenario where, it's wireless systems are like your wireless phone, and you
drop calls.
you drop a call, you drop internet. I mean, if it works 98% of the time, you know what? That's great for most things. But if your dog escapes in that 2% and God forbid gets out, then then you got a problem. So we bury the wire. We bury it about 4 inches deep. So we're not burying it too deep, and We take all the safety precautions. We contact all the one digs and make sure that they come out and mark all the utilities. We're not necessarily worried about electrical and gas and what have you, but we want to make sure that we follow the correct procedures and take every procedure, safety precaution that we need to, so we don't cause more problems.
Absolutely. So quick question though. Obviously, front yards specifically have driveways. So how do you work around the concrete or things that are physical barriers to a physical line versus the wireless version?
Well, that's a good question. And people don't ever really every phone call you get, very rarely do they want to do the front yard. They just want to do the backyard.
Okay.
And I have to tell them there's a procedure involved. The wire has to start and stop at the same spot. It's got to complete a circuit or a loop to continue that signal. So that being said, more times than not, it's cheaper for the end user to get the front yard like you're talking about and the backyard. It is less money to do both the front and the backyard than it would be just the backyard. Probably 95% of the times, just because the front yard is smaller. And so then when we do come to the driveway, it's a pretty simple procedure. We just do a small cut in and out in the existing joints, and we'll bury the wire in there, and then we'll seal it back up. So the customer, and we can't even tell where it is. I mean, I go back a year later, and I have no idea where it is. I have to use a tracing device to see it. So it's secured in there. And it lasts for years typically. I mean, we've got fences that are over 20 years old that we've never had issues with. So they can last a long time. I mean, they'll last, usually outlast the life of the dog.
And God forbid, but assuming most people are going to replace that dog anyway, and so you're just dealing with a different generation.
Yeah.
Which is a strength in terms of a compliment to your company, saying that you're multi-generational in its effect as well, right?
We do get a lot. We have a couple customers. I think we're on their third generation that we've gone.
There you go.
From grandmother to son to yeah. So we've stepped down, and the nice thing about our system is, when you move, you can't take a physical fence with you. And we're not going to come out and dig up your wire, but whoever moves into your house can use that existing wire, right. And then you're welcome, and that's up to the real estate agents and what they work out on the deal. There's a transmitter control piece, and typically it will go in the garage. That's your property, and then the collars are your property. So you can take all the equipment when you move to from house A to house B, and then all you need is the wire. So you've already got part of the solution, and that can continue down the road as you continue to move.
And I assume, I mean, we got 140 5-star reviews, and we have a company that's been in business 25 years.
Correct.
And you're obviously now a co-partner in this business for the last few, and part of it as 4. But you've developed these channels through realtors and vets. The realtors parts I get. The vets, now I'm just thinking through here, is the vets are recommending you because the owners are bringing in a puppy or a new dog or a new client, and with the new client comes, hey, there's a containment system that's probably needed. Is that it, or where are the vets? Because it sounds like you've been really ingrained with vets for quite a while.
Well, yeah, we've been ingrained in vets for years, and I think a big part of that is when you go get a puppy, you have to go get the initial shots, and then you're trying to find solutions on, you're trying to figure out, okay, what kind of dog food do I get for my dog? How do I keep, and then it becomes, how do I contain my dog? What do I do what's the safest way to keep my dog in the yard? And we're actually safer than existing fences because, I would say 1 in 5 of our installs is inside of an existing fence because the dog goes underneath the fence or goes through the rails or jumps over or digs, or we've had dogs pull off the wooden parts of a fence to get out. So I mean, we're actually safer. I mean, our security record is a lot better than any physical fence. We don't have to worry about some
really
kid opening the gate or utility guy coming in to run something and forgetting to close it, and your dog gets out. So
that actually happens a lot, especially when
totally right.
Yeah, when we did pest control, that was some of the biggest things. Especially if a homeowner isn't home, you got to get to that backyard and make sure that you close that fence after, especially if they've had dogs, because then you're gonna have a big issue with the homeowner. So
the containment, good point, good talking point. The containment system inside a physical fence actually adds as a preventative barrier in case of mess up either by Johnny or Susie or the pet defense or the
any
sorry,
guy
the
to come in,
pest
service
control guy,
person.
service person. So and I assume there's some type of pre-warning. I mean, because you can't just hit that fence. There has to be a range that these guys and how does that process work?
Well, that's a good question. So when the wire is installed, and it saves. It's going to prevent the dog from getting to the fence. It's in that range, and we can set the range how much signal that wire will put out, and typically we'll set it around 4 to 5 feet. So once the dog gets within 5 feet of that fence, it's going to wear the collar, and then it's going to hear a beep, and it's an audible beep. There's no correction with that initially. Now, once the dog hears that beep, we retrain them, and we're going to train you how to get the dog to back away, because the dog's not going to listen to that beep for too much longer.
Right.
We set our collars to have a delay of about a half a second. So that's enough time for even a 14-year-old, dog that's limping along to hear the beep and go, okay, I got to go the other way. And if they move the other way, nothing happens. So we'll typically set that range about 5 feet inside where that wire is, 4 to 5 feet.
Okay.
So they have to stay, if they continue on that path, then they're going to get that correction. And again, the correction level, I bring it to every customer, and I let them offer to feel it. And most people can't feel it. The initial, it's almost like a vibrate or a tingle. It's not a electrocution where you're shaking and thinking this is a horrible thing. It's a thing where you're like, okay, I can feel that. And so that's where we want to start. And we almost want it to be an annoyance for the dog. The dog walks over there and is like, I don't like that. I think I'm going to back away.
So I'm going to unpack two things here, because you mentioned one comment that I'm not even sure you mentioned or you realize you mentioned, but I heard it, and I think it's really a good talking point. But first of all, you're also talking about, I assume there's levels of correction, because you're talking about a tingle to something upgrade. So maybe you can speak on that. But also, here's the funny part that I think is kind of funny, but it sounded as if you are training not only the dog, but you're training the homeowners as well, because you mentioned that there's training involved in two ways.
Well, and that's a great observation, because I did say that, and that is probably the most important thing. We're gonna put we'll install the wire, and one of the nice things about us is our installer's been with us for 15 years, and that's more than all. How often do you get a service guy, and he's a perfectionist, and when I say perfectionist, it's amazing. So every staple is the exact same distance away. I mean, he takes pride and joy in each and every job, and he does it. They're perfect, and I've never heard one person say anything bad about them. But once that's installed, we'll come out and we're going to train with both the owner and the dog, and we're going to spend about 90 minutes, and we're going to teach the owner
that's good, though.
What to do.
90 minutes with the dog, 2 hours with the owner.
Yes,
is that how it works?
Kind of. And we tell the owners, people's that when a system doesn't work, it can be tied back to probably 99% of the time of the training process, and they didn't go through the training. It's not a magic wire, and that's what I tell people. It's not, hey, we're just going to put the wire in, put the collar on the dog, let him go outside, he's going to figure it out, good to go. Yeah. Doesn't work like that. So, we'll sit down, and we've developed our training calendar over 25 years, so we've got a pretty good record, and we know what to do, and I train almost every day. So I can work with a dog for 10 or 15 minutes, and I can determine, okay, here's where this dog's going to start out at. Mm-hmm. Here's the final correction level, like you mentioned, and we do have to get it high enough eventually. So if they see a squirrel or a rabbit or another dog or a person, or whatever the case may be,
instinct kicks in.
Yeah, that when that adrenaline kicks in and they're like, I want to go after that, they have to know, hey, I got to stop right here. And
the beep.
And it's amazing. I got a call the other day from a guy that has 2 hunting dogs, and he goes, I didn't think this was going to work. I thought it was a waste of my money, and my wife wanted to do it, and I said okay. And he goes, this thing works perfectly, because my dogs go full speed, and then when they get on that wire, they just shove the brakes on and they stop, and it becomes a process, and they love it outside, and they still can be outside, and they can still be a dog, and we don't ever want to take any of that part away. Mm-hmm. But we do have to train the owners, and we sit down with them and go over, here's what you need to do, and we give them a little calendar and say, on day 6, here's what you need to do, and it lasts a couple weeks, and we're there to support them, and if they have questions or concerns, they call us, and if they follow the procedures and what we ask them to do, 99.9, I guess, percent of the time it works. So
nice.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of doing that training and going through that process.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. The podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your likes, shares, and support. Now, back to the show.
we ask typically a lot of structured questions with some of our guests, but you really have touched upon a lot of it.
Yeah.
And that I've kind of pulled out just by letting you talk, and it's been fantastic. And so you've talked about, for those that are kind of interested and intrigued about contacting Mike and Pet Defense, and even comparing your strengths versus some of your weaknesses and things that you've learned over 25 years to kind of perfect this, 140 Google reviews, which sounds fantastic, and a lot of things work in your favor, which is great news. And that's why we bring people like you into the studios, because we want to pick the brains of, regardless of the business, guess what? It's business.
Right.
And it comes down to, how you treat people, regardless of whether we're doing it on our side with KC Peer or KC Property Guys or Pet Defense or any of our guests that we have lined up that are working with customers, or even business to business. It's how you treat people, because people, and we talk about this a lot, Lucas, and in our talks with specifically KC Property Guys, is Google's a great mediator and review tool. And if you want to really compare, and people do this naturally, if you really want to compare yourself to the competition, which all consumers are going to do anyway,
You can.
right?
You can.
It is a couple clicks away,
Yep.
and it's a quick 3-second assessment of, there's 5 stars, there's 3 stars. Guess who I'm going to call?
Yeah, obviously the 5. Yeah.
Right. It becomes extremely obvious. So Google working in your favor, and power to Google and its ability to bring that information so quickly, for people to assess, definitely can work in your favor as an industry leader. So good assessment. Really, really neat. I enjoyed listening to everything you have, because it's real. At the end of the day, it's how you treat people, how you work with dogs,
right?
And this is our specialty, and how we do it. But it's all built around just basic taking care of your customers, and in this case, it's a canine customer as well as a humanoid. You're working with both.
Humanoid.
Yeah.
You're working with both, and you're training both, right? I mean, we don't necessarily say that. I mean, we do a lot of education. I guess we train, we educate.
Yeah, we definitely
especially
educate.
in Peer. Our guys at KC Peer educate homeowners in the black box of a foundation. I mean, how many people get panicky when they start to see a crack in the wall?
Right.
And we have to come in
their
and
basement.
educate where that's coming from, and what's the pros and cons, and here's the different types of fixes. So education is a big part of it, but you're actually training on how to use a tool, which is somewhat of a different aspect.
It's unique. It is unique, and I think the success has been, if you treat people like you said, if you give the best customer service, and our response time is second to none, and they call, we're there in no time, and we get a lot of customers from either other companies or do-it-yourself people. They're like, man, this is great. They come out and they fix it. But if you provide that service, and then you provide knowledge on the product, you get repeat customers. I mean, they're going to want to go with you, and I don't know if we're the cheapest, but we're the best, and if you hire us, it's going to work. And ultimately, whenever you buy a product, whatever the case may be, you want it to work. And you can go to Amazon and probably get it a couple bucks cheaper or whatever, but you got to get it to work. And if you're going to spend money on something, you might as well make sure it works.
Not only do you got to get to work, but you got to do the training.
Yes,
and that's what I'm hearing.
That's the biggest
you
part.
is
you could buy something off Amazon. Yeah, you could buy a fence or something off Amazon and get the cheaper, but you're not going to get nearly any of the training.
Professional training,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. There's no psychological factor to it.
I don't care what the industry is. Put me in front. We said this at the beginning. Put me in front of an industry leader and let me learn.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. That's
or let me discover and screw it up myself. And that's what happens with a lot of DIY. And we see this on Property Guys too. A lot of would-be investors get into a house, and all of a sudden they get it over their head, and then all of a sudden the phone's ringing. Say, hey, come bail me out. Look, we're in or over our head. I mean, it happens in any industry.
Exact same thing.
So going to an industry professional and a leader, regardless of what the industry is, in this case it's pet defense, is definitely has a lot of merit to it. You may pay a little bit more, but from my perspective, guess what? That education is worth it, because you know it's going to work, and you know what's being applied is going to work in the end, so there's no headaches.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a time that I would always cut corners and try to save money here or there, and I've learned over time is that let's do it right the first time, so
Right.
we don't backtrack and
spend
screw it
more.
up. And,
Yeah.
and absolutely, so that extra free $200-$300, whatever it may be, is well worth it in the long run, because you're not redoing something and costing yourself more money in the end. Is there a warranty that comes with this?
Yeah,
as
there
well?
there is. I mean, we'll warranty our installation. Like I said, our guy's been doing it for 15 years, so we'll cover that if it's an installation related issue. Now, we can't control, Google coming into your yard and digging up your line, or
it doesn't line locate people that do that for construction. It doesn't.
No,
So you got to deal with cut lines.
Yeah, we
maybe
deal with
every
cut
once in a
lines
while.
all the time.
Okay.
So I mean, but our service, if you have a cut, and you'll know it, you'll know it. And
does the containment system box beep?
It does beep
Okay.
at you, and
It tells
it's you think your house is going to blow up probably, so you unplug it, and it's not going to blow up, and you're going to give us a call, and your dog doesn't get an email saying, hey, the fence is down, I'm free to go.
Right.
But you want to call us sooner than later and get out there and get it done, because the
Right.
dog eventually will hey, I wonder if I can go here. Yeah.
We're running a little long. I want to
Sorry.
wrap this up, but it's a good point though.
Yeah.
The dog doesn't get an email, but I'm assuming you can take that collar off probably after a while.
Yeah, I don't get that phone call, but I've heard that once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, some dogs do.
Because he's ingrained. He knows.
Well,
Hey man,
it's
if
like
I go
my
in that
dog.
corner,
It's like my dog.
Yeah.
I have the collar off of him now, and he won't go anywhere near that thing.
Yeah,
He'll go near it, but he knows when to stop.
He
right.
knows the line.
And some dogs are like that. Some dogs don't. I mean, they just push it until the last
Wow.
day. I mean, they're just like, I want to get out. So every dog's different. We and so that's why we go through that same process. So
Yeah.
we start.
Yeah.
We start with our gentle steps program, start low, and eventually get to where we need to go.
right on. Okay, you ready for our KC Quick 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we talked to all our guests and talked about Kansas City. This is Kansas City Industry Leader Show, right? And so we always prep and pump, and we like the information, actually. Lucas and
Yeah.
I like to listen in and hear some of these Kansas City secrets, because we know a lot, but we don't know everything. So
Not
Casey-
yet.
Yeah, not yet. We're working on it.
Yeah, there we go.
KC Quick 3. So we talk about eateries, because we're somewhat foodies. We're mild foodies, right? Mm-hmm. So any secrets? Yeah. And here's a good thing. Here's pet defense. This isn't a guy that sits in a desk all day, right? This is a guy he already said it. He's out training every day. So this is a guy that knows the nooks
Yes.
and crannies
Yes.
and corners of the city. He's not carrying his lunch in his car. It's not sitting in his bag. He's like, there's something new here. I'm in the middle of Liberty.
Right.
I haven't
right.
been out here in a few
Right.
months. This one looks like it's not branded.
Right.
I'm hoping.
Right.
I'm hoping something like this is going to come out of here. So what do you got? We need to know. Plus, I know a little background here.
Yeah, you do.
He's a barbecue guy.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we'll probably, I assume it's going to come up in our next question. I'm guessing.
It'll probably come up in this question as well. Yeah, I'm
okay. All right, go
definitely a
ahead.
barbecue
Go
guy.
ahead.
So we've been doing it for years. I'm on a competitive team, and we've done it.
There we
So
go. There we go.
Nice.
so I feel like I
Uh-huh.
can evaluate barbecue fairly well.
Nice.
And all the common places, and to me, Q39 is the top in Kansas City as far as best cooked barbecue. Those guys are gourmet, and they've applied their gourmet techniques to barbecue, and to open up a barbecue restaurant in the barbecue capital of the world
Yes.
takes some guts, but to be the best is pretty amazing, and they've done it, and it's very impressive. So obviously, the people in town know that that's really good, but I think it's cooked the best.
Okay. Excellent.
And
And
so
it is good, by the way. Very good.
Q39 is the top. Now, I told you a little bit. Jack Stack is everybody's favorite, and Kansas City Joe's, which used to be Oklahoma Joe's, they do great pulled pork, and they do a great job. And then there's some small dives that
Okay.
that
All right.
yeah.
Let's hear it.
Well, let's see. If you're on the south side of town, Sneed's has been around for years.
Martin City Sneeds. Is that what
Well,
you're talking
it's not even Martin City. It's
not Martin City
out
anymore?
it's out past Lockloyd. It's like 171st or 179th and Holmes, I
Past
believe.
Martin City.
Yeah, I mean it's
Still there.
yeah, and I'm trying to think of the one down by. I'm just going on the outskirts. Hillsdale, Yeah.
The old bank building.
Yeah.
I know that
See,
one.
you know them. So I mean, you travel for real estate.
If I remember, it's Thursday's Ribs.
Yeah, you
at,
might
at Hillsdale. So
yeah, you might have that correct.
but I could be just guessing and just happen to be right.
And I'm trying to think. We went up north, and we tried some barbecue right up by the airport. And I'm trying to think of the name. It was like 69 High. It was right up by the airport in Platte City. It was really, really good.
Someone's going to comment and give us a name.
Yeah,
So
hopefully they do.
I look forward to you coming through.
We did a wing tour a couple weeks ago, so that was one of the stops, and they were exceptional. And it's a barbecue place that I'd never heard, but it's one of those places that once you go to it, I mean, if I'm having to wait for a pickup at the airport, I'm running over there grabbing something because
Nice.
it was really well done.
Okay, good.
It was really well done.
All right,
Cool.
so
Got
great,
the food side, yeah.
great little nuggets. Favorite KC event? You know, we have a lot of events that go throughout the city, but and the thing about when we ask this with events is there's so many different interests. We get a lot of variety because we only talk about one, maybe two. But go ahead, give us what do you think?
Again, I'll probably stick with the barbecue theme here. I'm a big Lenexa barbecue guy. I'm involved with the team, and actually the team, the founder of Lenexa Barbecue, Pat Dalton, started the team that I'm on, Dalton Gang. So we've done that every year, and that's kind of a great get together for some friends. And
you're almost like a founder.
Well,
you're related to the founder.
Related to the founder. I don't know if Pat would take me. He's but yes, I've heard some really good stories from him. He's a very interesting person. But yeah, the Lenexa Barbecue's been around for, I don't think they're at 40 years, but I think they're closing in on it.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
It is huge. It's 180 teams. There's weights to get in. If you've never been, it's at the end of June. It's the last weekend of June on a Friday night. Come out and it's a fun party. And then Saturday's the judging.
All right, here's your chance to brag. Highest finish?
We won chicken last year. We won chicken last year, and then
Dalton Gang.
Dalton Gang
first.
Dalton Gang first in chicken, and there's restaurants in town, and I want to say Slaps, which is actually a really good barbecue place. They got second, so I don't know if I should go in there and say, "Do you guys know how to do chicken?" Because we do. But no, they're obviously really good at it. All those. But yeah, we and then they won it back in the '90s. And if you win that, it's a big contest. I mean, like I said, there's 180 teams plus in it.
Right.
You get to go to the Nationals, which is in it's the Jack Daniels Nationals in Lynchburg. And yeah,
you're going for chicken, or is
no
the overall winner?
You have to be a top 3, I believe, at any kind of KCBS.
Okay.
At certain KCBS sanctioned events, and then you get invited to that. And
Kansas City Barbecue Society.
Yeah, which is guess what?
You.
Yeah, they're based here in town. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
That's awesome.
Well, very cool. And I like how he mentions like back in the '90s. I mean, he's obviously you've been there a while, right? You're talking. You could probably name your last 15 finishes. In all categories.
Well, we want to forget some of them. We want to forget a lot of them. But we've always struggled at chicken, and we thought, well, if we could do well at chicken, we've gotten a couple top 10s in the last couple of years, and in different, in pork and ribs and brisket, but we've always struggled at chicken, and we switched it up a little bit.
So you get first, and you're like, I did? I mean, is that the tone that came out of your mouth?
Well,
were you that surprised?
Well, we a couple of us went up just for the judging at the end of the day, and it's a long weekend, so you're tired. So we went up and listened, and the joke was, and they were announcing it backwards, and they go, okay, first place winner, and I'm like, okay, if we win, I'll go up and do a dance, and they announced it, and my friend Jim looked at me, and he had the big eyes. He's like, oh my goodness. He was so, I go, go, and I'm hitting him to go up there, and he took his beer up on stage, and he smiled for 20 minutes, and
nice.
It was awesome. It was fun. It's a
good memory.
Yeah, it's a neat event.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's a neat event.
Cool. Absolutely. So any shout outs? That's our final on the KC3. Any shout outs? Anybody local you want to say hi to? And
well, I think I just shouted out to my.
Yeah, you basically covered your Dalton Gang for sure.
I covered our barbecue contest. Pat Dalton also part of Mid America Games, which is a good event, and hopefully some of your followers will check into it. It's an event for disabled people here in Kansas City. He does every year, and he's done it for close to 40 years. And
fantastic.
Yeah, it's really a neat event. So I'm involved with that. I got a couple buddies that we train for it, and there's teams all over the country that come, and I think it's early May this year, so it's a neat event. It's called Mid-America Games. It's basically bocce, and it's amazing.
Nice.
I'm into bocce and curling and all shuffleboard. I was at a shuffleboard league so I'm trying to cover all the different sports. So,
Really nice.
but yeah, that's a neat event.
Great. So if anybody listening, watching, reading, want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for people to get you in contact with some hidden fence information?
Well, no, that'd be great. If they want to check out our website, it's at petdefense.com. And like I said, we're based here in Kansas City. We've been around for 25 years. And we cover the whole metropolitan area. We head out to Lawrence, and we'll go out a little ways if needed. But yeah, if they go to petdefense.com, they can find more information, and happy to talk to them more about a hidden dog fence.
Fantastic. Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been great.
You bet.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. We just had Mike Church in here for today, and we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to see you on the next episode. So you guys take care.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Kansas City Real Estate Industry Leaders Show. Please support all things local to Kansas City. And hey, be sure to subscribe and share our podcast on Facebook and LinkedIn. This has been a KC Property Guys production. KCPropertyGuys.com.